Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 135 of Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone, brought to you by Solozo. And today, our guest is perfect because we were just talking about this, Chris and I, the other day, about how automating pricing for private label sellers. And it's perfect. We've got Jason Hanan on with us today from AZ Seller Kit, and we're going to talk about just that. So, Jason, thanks so much for joining us.
Cool. No, thanks for having us. And I guess, are you guys the two sellers, and that would make me the
Yeah,
microphone?
we're the
Is that
sellers.
Yeah.
all right? So I'm the microphone. I got it. Understood.
Yeah, you're the microphone, but I know that you're also a seller, so we'll call this three Amazon
Three.
sellers and a microphone. And before we get started, just anyone who's listening right now who doesn't know you, doesn't know AZ Seller Kit, you've got the floor. We'd love to hear sort of your story. I know you've been in this space e-commerce for a long time. Tell us sort of your journey and how it led to AZ Seller Kit.
Please, 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. My phone is on the fritz and connecting with my headset there. Apologies.
Did you hear everything I said?
I did not. I got to get this on airplane mode, and then we'll be good.
No
Apologies
worries.
for that. 2 seconds here. Sorry. You can go now. What did you say? My apologies.
Well, I was saying all kinds of cool stuff.
I'm
No,
sure.
no, I was just introing you, and just for everyone who's listening right now who doesn't know you, we'd love to hear your story. We know you've been in the e-commerce space for a long time, so just sort of your personal journey and how that led to AZ Seller Kit.
Sure. So I guess the short version is I've been doing this since 2003. We started off selling DVDs on Amazon. We actually own retail stores in Manhattan since 1996. We got into the Amazon game selling DVDs as basically a reseller in about 2003. So we were working with software from way back then to try and figure out how to best manage our business. Around 2013, 2014, the end of the DVD world came, and it was time to pivot. And we were fortunate enough where we had a lot of knowledge on Amazon. And at that point, the private label world was sort of just beginning. So we turned ourselves into an agency. We landed a lot in the apparel category where we had some relationships in that business from just some friendships and whatnot. So we ended up representing some major sellers who were really selling to the likes of, TJ Maxx, Walmart, and some of the major stores that were out there. And we got them onto Amazon. So we were kind of an agency before we even knew what an agency was. And as part of that, we had all the software that we already had built, and we started to improve on our internal software for basically to work and manage these accounts. So as an agency owner, we were trying to figure out how to best manage pricing for all of our accounts that were all private label. And I would literally sit up till 4 o'clock in the morning trying to adjust prices based on, are we running out of stock? Are we overstocked? Do I think we can sneak more margin out of this? My costs went up, and doing that on a manual basis was making me lose my mind. My partner, Lenny, who is much smarter than I am, basically a software guy, he said, whatever is going on in your head, he's like, there's got to be a better way to get this, into a system that makes sense. It took me about a year. I was like, nah, I can do it. I can stay up. I got it. Don't worry about it. It's all in my head. No problem. Eventually, we got to like 20,000 SKUs. And I was just like, okay, I can't do this anymore without software. So we set off to really try and build a tool that can automate this. So we were working with automated pricing internally from about 2017 probably, where we were doing that ourselves. And around, I have to say, my partner was telling me we should sell software since 2000 probably 16, and I was like, no, let's focus. No software. We're an agency. Let's try and stay focused. And around 2019, we kind of realized that this was really an opportunity because nobody was really doing this in a way that made sense. And we had a full suite at that point of a dashboard and replenishment reports and financial reports and all these tools that we were using to manage our business. And the bigger the business got, we kind of realized that there were other sellers out there that could benefit from the tools that we had. So we basically took the tool, turned it forward facing, and really the hook really became this automated pricing. And we were fortunate enough to launch right in the beginning of COVID, which we
Mm.
thought was going to be the worst possible time, but really ended up being best case scenario because inventory was limited, and trying to find the sweet spot on pricing became super important. And like we had accounts who were selling scissors, and everyone couldn't get to a hair cutter, so
Mm.
scissors were selling for 25 and $30 that were originally selling for 10, and the software just kept trying to push up prices. They were exercise weights which went through the roof, and the software just kept pushing the prices up. So our name got out there pretty quickly, because we had this tool, and it's been a fun ride really ever since.
I have so many questions.
I have so many answers.
uh, well, just anecdotally from perspective of me as a seller, I never change my price. I change it for like, okay, I'm about to run out of inventory. If I catch it, I'll jack my price up a little bit to try to prevent that. Typically, if I ever change my price, it's lowering it to try to drive sales. And I know, I don't want to know how much money I've left on the table.
Correct.
Where this is going, and I'm telling you, Chris and we were just talking the other day about repricers, which is they're very, very valuable tools in the arbitrage or the wholesale world. And it's just during that conversation, we're like, what is there a way to automate pricing for us? And what are the metrics you would go towards, like an ROI or everything, inventory management. So cannot wait to just dive into this a little bit more and talk about it. But I do have to go back to the beginning, because 2003, you've got some credentials here. If you've been in the game, I almost feel like an old timer in the game, and we started in 2014. But you've been around and done it. So I bet you've seen it's amazing how much Amazon's changed since then to now.
It has been they've always been just the kings of the world, and even back then they were always. We just realized you could buy a DVD from them on Monday for $15 and then resell it on Amazon on Friday for 25. And
Wow.
I was like, you know what? I'm buying stock in this company. I was like, I don't know how these guys do it, but they were really just had the ability to sell things at two different prices between Monday and Wednesday and Friday, and nobody cared. And I was like, this is just ridiculous. Like, it's just something that didn't exist anywhere else. And just prices, especially in that arbitrage world. If you're looking for a pair of Nikes, it has 48 different prices for each different size, and the marketplace just is okay with it. Everybody just seems to understand if it's on Amazon, the market will dictate where the price should be. And that just didn't exist. It was eBay who was kind of doing it almost like I'm going to say almost like a joke compared to the way Amazon did it, because we used to sell DVDs on eBay as well. And eBay, you had the same listing with 48 different listings for the same DVD.
Right.
Whereas Amazon unified that, and that's it. They conquered the world once they were able to take one UPC code or one ASIN, put them all on the same listing, and tell all the sellers kill each other. And that was basically, and they just won the game that early on,
which was brilliant. And that brought in the whole concept of a buy box and buy box rotations and how you win it. And then, of course, Amazon trying to get the best customer experience, which that was a huge boost to customer experience. I mean, eBay is a mess. You're like, I looked the other day for a baseball bat for my son. I was like, there's like 9,000 results. I don't want to look through this.
Exactly.
For the same bat. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't want to get that. So you were selling DVDs that you had a physical store and you were selling them online or through there. Were you fulfilling the orders yourself when you started, or were you shipping?
Exactly. So we started off fulfilling the orders ourselves because, of course, like everyone else, like I want to hold on to my inventory. I don't want to go FBA. Right. We're also selling on eBay. We're also doing these other things. And then it got so busy that out of necessity, we were like, let's ship some to Amazon and see what happens. took us about a week to say we're never filling an order ourselves again, and turned everything off. Went to eBay only for fulfillment and just sent as much as we could to Amazon, because they were just, it was incredible. Like, the difference between the Prime badge and not at this point is, kind of old news. But back in the day when FBA was really starting to see the difference, where it was like 90% better sell through if it was Prime, and we were like, this is a crazy, crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
It still surprises me. Dustin and I talk to sellers often, and every now and then I'll get a seller that comes on and they're doing FBM, and I'm like, you got to go FBA. Oh, Amazon eats all my margin. I'm like, it's going to be like double your sales if you go FBA. And like, oh, it ain't going to be like that. I'm telling you, you got to go. So it still like boggles me when we still talk to brands and they're like, oh, I fulfill it myself. I don't want to do FBA. I'm like, have you even tried it yet?
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, and now Amazon is shutting down, what is allowed to be sent. So it's it's such a premium to be able to have your product go FBA. It's really and they get goods to you in a day. Like, I order Sunday, it's there Monday afternoon. I'm like, I don't understand. How do you beat that?
Right.
And
if it wasn't for the FBA model, there's no way I could have scaled it as one person.
It's
sure. Possible. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And really, I think the beauty of FBA also is they sort of had previously in the 2000s and middle of the 2010s, it was basically where Amazon had the best price on everything. That was this perception, and now they seem to have taken that perception, and everybody forgot that that's why they shopped on Amazon, and now it's convenience. So if you're buying something on Amazon for $25, it can be on another site for $20, and you don't care. You're like, what? It's coming tomorrow. I want to know that the credit card saved, it's in my phone, and why would I go to another website, put in my information to order it so that maybe it'll show up in 5 days?
Yeah,
I know it'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah,
and it's worth $5. I tell all of my accounts that we deal with, if you're not 20 to 25% higher on Amazon than you are on your own website or other marketplaces, you're probably undershooting on where you can be.
I talked to a seller the other day. He was selling $10 items and he's running advertising. I'm like, man, you have to raise your price. Oh, I can't. I don't want to lose the buy. I'm going to lose sales. I'm like, you're cutting yourself short here. Raise it $1 a week or $2 a month, like whatever it is, but you have to raise it because you're not getting any profit back and you're just spending like $5 to make or to lose $1 pretty much. Like you're not making enough money.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, raise your price, like try it, just try it because it's a premium. You're right.
I'll tell you, one of the interesting things that we found on Amazon, which is, I guess, sort of works to the point of price elasticity, is that the pricing on the way up, is not that big. Your velocity doesn't change that much when you increase prices a lot of the time, but the same usually holds true when you reduce pricing. So like if you're going to reduce price, it's not really going to make that much of a difference because the customers are not super price sensitive on Amazon to begin with, and that's really why they're there. There are a few categories which are super price sensitive, which don't happen to not really work well with repricing, at least on the way up. Like if you're dealing with electronics, headphones, battery chargers, these things that are really commodities, and everybody knows it's $9.99. If you go to $10.29, your sales will get destroyed. But if you go to $9.49, your sales will also take off. So it works kind of in both sides. But most categories on Amazon, if you're at 24 or 26, 23, it's not really that big of a difference. So it's really about, if you're mining a catalog, going through a catalog, testing and retesting prices. Obviously, even if you don't have software, who cares? If you have 5 items that you're managing, you don't need software to do it. You basically want to go in, test a higher price point, try it again, test a little bit more, and see if your velocity suffers. If it's not suffering, then great. That leaves you more money now to spend on advertising to keep pushing your listing up, higher on the page. So if you're at $29.99, you now have another $5 left in margin that you didn't have at $24.99. Double down on your ad spend. It's converting, and that's really the way to build an Amazon business. The way down is just a death spiral, because you can do millions of dollars of business on Amazon, and we'll have people that'll call me and be like, Jason, I want to do $10 million a year next year on Amazon. I need you to help me make it happen. I was like, no problem. I could lose you $1 million. I was like, just tell me. I was like, tell me how much money you want to make. Don't start with me on sales. Sales on Amazon are meaningless. Like, let's discuss, what profit margins do you want to be at? Do you want to have a healthy business model? Or you're like, what are we doing here? And just to sell and not have margin is just I mean, Amazon loves it, but that's not what any of us should be trying to, do at this point. Even if you're looking for an exit, the first thing they're looking at is your margin. They don't care if you're losing money or not. So
that's a great point. I remember when I first launched the product, it's my best selling now. I went like $17.99. And at the time I was looking at my competitors because that was the cheapest from all the competitors. Now, fast forward 2-3 years later, I'm at $25, which is higher than all my competitors. And my velocity has even gotten better because I've created the brand around it. But I remember thinking I remember going from like 17 to 21 to 23 to 25, and that from that 23 to 25, it's like a $23.95 to a $24.95. I was like, oh, it's going to be it's going to be too high priced. I'm going to be too much. But nothing really changed. It was like still the same velocity. I'm just adding $2 more to that profit at the end of your sale. So I always tell people, increase your price, test it at least.
Yeah, no, it's very often on Amazon. There's a, perceived, and I do it myself all the time, and I'm almost embarrassed myself as I shop that, I'll look for an item and I don't want the most expensive one, but I don't want the cheapest one either. There's so much stuff out there. So I'll try and land somewhere in the middle. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like a victim of my own software because I'm probably buying this one in the middle and it's probably no better than the cheapest one out there, but can't help it. I just want a little bit higher quality. Maybe as a price indicate quality, still there is this perception that a higher price is higher quality. So if people are shopping through, there's definitely a group of people that are always going to click on the lowest, but there's a whole other group of people that are going to just, click on the one that's a little bit higher because they think it's a better value.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I watch my kids do that. I've got like a teenager and an 11-year-old, and they throw stuff in the Amazon shopping cart all the time. And sometimes I'm baffled by their mindset because they're not price sensitive at all. If it's the cool thing, then they're loading it in there. And I'm like, guys, there are like 24 options here. Are you not looking at these other ones? You're picking an expensive one. But that's they're buyers. They're out there. They're buying. They're telling their parents they want it. It's so true. That's why I'm really fascinated by this, and I feel like this is huge for us as sellers. We just get locked in.
But one of the other, I guess, caveats of when you're raising prices, and there's like some philosophical debate, is on launch. We usually recommend that you don't use a repricer on launch. Sure. Because that beginning phase of how long is the honeymoon phase, that's, no one knows. Is it 30? Is it 60? Is it 90? But in that honeymoon phase, you do want to ramp up, sell out as fast as possible. If you fall off a cliff, it's fine. The ranking will hold when you bring it back in stock. And that party, though, I guess there's some confusion really in the marketplace where if you have an item for 6 months, you don't need to do that anymore. And selling out actually hurts you once you have, once you go out of stock, that's actually bad. So you don't want to, fall out of stock because your ranking to get that back is going to be that much harder. It's going to cost you that much more in advertising. So trying to creep up your price just to keep you in stock is something that is very beneficial for, ad spend, for ranking and all of that, which is definitely not the case in that first 90 days. But, there's definitely, part of our onboarding is if you're launching a product and it's new to the catalog, let's make sure you don't have it turned on and make sure you pick your price, sell out, do your thing. Don't play around with the pricing too much in that launch phase. This is really a model that's built for an item that's out of the honeymoon phase. When that is, that we can have a philosophical conversation with 50 people that'll go over that. But, at some point, it's, let's say 6 months out is really even, it's probably much shorter than that. But at least, if an item's been out there for 6 months, you should really be at that point testing your pricing and seeing if you have some room.
Well, when you were talking about your journey and you're talking about your agency that you guys run and that how it was, I don't know if it's totally specializing in clothing or if that was a big component of it. That just, because I think of the clothing category as just I can think of so many reasons why it's difficult and would not be my first choice to get in. But I can also, when knowing the topic of this that we're going to talk about with automated pricing, I was like, products that have lots of variations like that and all kinds of different things going on, automated pricing has got to be huge. Like you could be running out of stock on your smalls right now. And that, because I see that a lot of times, I'm like, man, why is that variation so much more expensive than the other variations? And it's probably, and I still buy it. So like,
no, I mean, and there's so many reasons, especially with, and it goes with clothing, and we started in clothing, so we started with the hardest thing first. So we didn't even realize that there could be an easy life of a product with no variations, but so we graduated to that later. But when you're dealing with, items that have a lot of variations, if you're, if the hottest thing, if it's a black pair of scissors, let's say, and everybody wants a black pair of scissors for whatever reason, and you don't have that in stock, people are going to the listing looking for a specific colorway and it's not there. So you're paying for PPC, you're telling the Amazon algorithm that you don't have this item, and you're negatively affecting the item, in multiple ways. So if you're able to at least be in stock at a little higher of a price for a little longer, it's going to be beneficial for your overall ad spend. And there's going to be people that you're able to drive traffic to the right places to help you manage your inventory. So, if it's a yellow, sweater that's not necessarily doing great, maybe someone will buy it for a few dollars less, whereas, the item that they actually want is a little bit higher, and it really helps to balance out your inventory and help your overall ad spend and your ACoS to be, part of what our software does also is gives you reporting on a parent level, because when you're spending money on advertising, to look at it on a child SKU level is really sometimes very deceiving if you have a lot of variations.
For sure.
So when you're looking at it on a parent ASIN level and you're looking at your ACoS, we have a report that will show you how many child ASINs within a parent are actually in and out of stock. So we really find that if you're actually below 75% in stock rate on your parent listing, usually your ACoS starts to tank. So we'll make a recommendation, like at that point, you should probably start to dial down your ad spend. But the flip side of that is if you can keep yourself in stock on your variations, then your overall listing is going to perform that much better, and you're able to command higher prices on, some of your hottest colorways, styles, or pieces in that, particular parent listing. So the reprice are definitely, I mean, everything right now is all variations for the most part. So the pricing tool is super helpful in helping to manage the different, styles of the variation.
So let's jump into this now. So let's say we come in and we start using AZ Seller Kit for our pricing. What does that look like from our end? What are we inputting? What metrics do we need to tell the system? And then let's talk about just the way it's going to be adjusting the price.
Sure. So there's two tiers of kind of how you can use the software. The first level is you can use it to help you manage inventory as what we call a defensive strategy, where you can put in your lower limit days of supply and your upper limit days of supply on an item level. So you can basically tell the software if there's seasonal issues or whatever it is, that if I drop below 10 days of supply at Amazon, if that's how long you think it takes you to restock from your local warehouse, at that point, I want to start increasing the pricing. And then the flip side is that you can tell the software if I'm over 90 days of supply at Amazon or 60 days of supply or 120, whatever you choose as your overstock threshold, at that point, start to reduce the price to my floor price. So you'll basically set up your floor price, your desired price of where you want to be. And then we usually recommend that you increase your price by about 10 or 15% from where you currently are. And we'll have that be your upper limit. And then we have another upper limit, 10, 15% higher than that, of what we call the ceiling price. And we do that because we don't want to increase pricing too fast, because then you have Amazon buy box issues. So we'll basically have a stop sort of in the middle at that 10, 15% price point. And we recommend that you hold it there from anywhere to 3 to 5 days. And we have like a setting where you can choose how long you want to hold it at that price point. And once it can actually achieve your goal at 3 to 5 days, then we'll start trying the next tier up. Because everyone knows there's these high pricing errors that actually happen. The software will catch it and will reduce the price and get you the buy box if we happen to price out and there's a high pricing error. But the goal is to try and trick the Amazon algorithm into seeing that there are sales at this higher price point to let you try and push up to that next level. So that's your inventory based solution for that's like defensive posture. You can turn that on, doesn't take much thought. 5 minutes, you're up and running as long as you have your rules in mind. Then there's level 2, which is what happens now if our base item is 10 days of supply below, 100 days of supply is overstock. So what happens if you live between 10 and 100 days of supply? So at that point, we have a strategy called profit optimization, where you can put in a target velocity. So if you were selling, for argument's sake, 10 pieces a week, if you were to go in and tell the software, I'm willing to accept 9 pieces per day. I'm sorry, it's usually everything we really do is on a daily basis. So I'm willing to accept 9 pieces per day on this SKU, and you set that as your target. The software is going to look back, see you're selling 10 per day, and start creeping the price up. As the price is creeping up, if it sees that there is no impact on your velocity, it's going to keep creeping up until it basically finds that spot where there's a negative impact on your overall velocity. Once it sees that negative impact, it'll start bringing it back down. And then it's basically just testing and retesting pricing to try and see if you can support a higher retail. So depending on how aggressive you want to be, you get to input basically what your target velocity is. So there's a couple different ways that target velocity strategy is used. One is strictly, let me see if I can juice some more profit out of my items. We have other people that use it and say, I have 1,000 pieces in my warehouse. And, obviously you can't send 1,000 in one shot to Amazon, but I want that to be my target to sell for, I need this to last me for 120 days. So they'll basically tell the software that's, 1,000 pieces, 120 days comes out to however many, units per day. That's my target. And if it starts to spike, the software will increase it. And they're basically making the, assumption that they can replenish to Amazon in a healthy way. And they want that to be the targets. And now, while all of this is running, if you do happen to fall outside of the thresholds of Amazon of what you set as your supply of a 10 days below or 100 days over, that will always take precedent, and that trumps all, because you really don't want to leave yourself in a situation where you're running out of stock. So, if your target is 10 per day and you're going to be sold out at, 2 per day, the software will see that and say, the new target's 2 because I'm at, I can't support that velocity anyway with my current inventory levels, and it'll start pushing the price up based on that. And then once a new shipment lands at Amazon, boom, it's back into your other, rule of the target velocity that you set.
That's so interesting.
What we've been looking for, right?
Yeah, this is exactly what we've been talking about.
And it works. I mean, it really works. And we have a comparison dashboard tool. Like we're sellers ourselves first, so we built it for ourselves. So on our dashboard is a comparison tool that's going to show you from where your price was, let's say last week or in the last 14 days or whenever you turn the repricer on, what was the effect of the pricing. So it's going to look at your previous price, your current price, your ad spend in that same time period, and see if you lost velocity, increased velocity, what your ACoS was during that time frame, and if your overall profitability was a plus or minus. So you get it, nice and big on your screen. It's either a green or a red. And if it's green, it was a successful, use of the tool. And if it's red, you go back in, recalibrate, adjust your targets. And basically, we usually find that if half the catalog works, which it usually does, and that's conservative, and then you need to rejig the other half, you'll have so much additional revenue just based on figuring out that there's price elasticity in half of your catalog, that the cost of the software ends up being a joke.
I'm on your website now. There's a screenshot of a seller who had an additional $467,000 in profit in the last 30 days. I'm sure you got a lot of stories like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that really is when we put that tile on the dashboard to basically show the additional revenue that they're gaining. And once we put that tile on, the software took off. Then everybody felt silly if they weren't using it, and they were telling their friends, if you're not using this, you're ridiculous. And the numbers and the data on that is actually old. Like all those people were at 450,000 are now at over 1 million and 2 million, because that was from, a bunch of months ago when I initially, made those videos.
Crazy.
Oh man, I've got work to do. Yeah.
Right?
It's not that complicated. It's really not. Like it's so 1+1, and sometimes like we overcomplicate things. But it's basically it's your 8th grade economics class when they tell you supply and demand. Like if there's more demand, raise your price.
Right.
If your supply can't hold it, you got to raise your price. And if there's more supply than demand, lower your price. And you see that all in the velocity metrics that Amazon just gives you on such a regular basis. So it's not really, it's not really all that complicated. It's really just a matter of being, for us, we're very rule based. We're very not going to say anti artificial intelligence when it comes to pricing, but it's really very complicated, and it's very we played around with using artificial intelligence to compare our items to competitors, and we found it to be a big fail, because if the comp is incorrect, or the customer doesn't necessarily see that as a comp, and
Mm,
the competitor is cheaper, but that doesn't mean anything because you're higher anyway. And the fact that you have a higher retail is actually why it's selling better than your competitor. We
mm.
found it to be so difficult to really try and understand the consumer, and we wrap back around to ultimately conversion. I mean, if your item's selling, that means people want it. And
Sure.
if a competitor goes out of stock, then your item's going to sell more. And if that happens and they're out of stock, you can probably get more money for it. So your retail goes up. You don't even have to know a competitor went out of stock. You just know your velocity increased. So it's going to test a higher price point and see if that works. And very often it does. And once
What
they come back in stock, boom, price goes back down.
what I really like about this is it takes all the emotional and bad decisions that a seller like me would make when I'm doing pricing. And like I already said, I don't do it hardly anyway. When I do, it's a lot of times it's down, or you test it up and you start freaking out like after a day. Like if it's randomly a slow sales day for no reason, you start panicking and changing the price around. So having this just work in the background,
Yes.
you're capturing profits that you would not potentially capture at all.
Very helpful for people with anxiety. I am one.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, which e-commerce will give you. If you didn't
Yes.
have it, you get it really quick when you get into e-commerce.
I'll pull out my pill bottle later and share, but that's
Oh, that's awesome. Well, so how often is that price change made by the tool? Is it changing it daily or every couple days, or?
So you have a choice to set it once a day or twice a day. We usually recommend that, depending on how volatile you want your items to be, that you try and stick to once a day after the software sort of gets a feel for your items. We like to open it twice a day so it really captures your items better. But if you're in a normal season and not in peak season, we'll usually recommend that you're looking at it, that the software is changing prices once a day.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also, the algorithm is also built where you can, on an item level, let the software know if it's peak season for your particular item. So if it's in peak season, then we're going to look at your last 7 days of sales with a weighted algorithm based on each day, which is weighted more towards the more recent days. But if it's in regular season for you, we set it to 30 days, and then it's basically looking at the same thing. Every day in the period has a specific weight, and that weight is distributed not evenly, but more heavily weighted towards your more recent data.
So let's run through it, like on Prime week.
Mm-hmm.
Velocity is crazy and fourth quarter's coming up. That's going to be crazy.
Correct.
So if I have an item on the pricer, potentially it's just going to raise it every day because the velocity is still going to even go higher than what it was the past 7 days.
Correct.
When I sell out of that item,
hopefully you don't, but if
hopefully
you do,
I don't. But if I sell out of that item, what happens to my price? Does it go back down because I have more inventory, or what happens there?
So once you sell out of an item, it's going to basically freeze your price at wherever that was. So you're at 0, it's frozen. And if once you're, we during Prime week or Prime day, we, at that point, everybody's got to go on peak season because everything's nuts. So at that point, it's really looking at your 7-day period. And once you clear that 7-day period of, let's say, your inventory lands, then it's going to look at your new inventory levels and your new velocity in the next 7-day period, and it's basically going to reset. But you have to reset that algorithm for Prime Day because everything's out of whack.
Yeah.
It's actually very different than Black Friday. Like Black Friday is actually the kickoff of the sales season. So you want that data to be in there because that's really telling you where the rest of your season is, what it's going to look like. Whereas Prime Day, it's one random week in the middle of nowhere, which is just like really messes up there's just no, it's a made up holiday that doesn't lead into anything. And, and it only lasts for 2 days, and then your velocity dies usually after the 2 days. So it's Prime week is a mess. So
So,
Cool stuff, man.
yeah, I'm fat. My brain is just spinning thinking of all of the. I mean, I'm thinking about lost revenue.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. How much I actually lost, like I left on the table.
There's two, one of the most obvious ways that we really show like lost revenue is we'll show an item where you had 100 pieces sold, let's say, in the 7 days before, and then the software raised the price, and now you only sold 50. And they'd be like, wait a minute, I only sold 50. I'm down 50% week over week. But it's like, no, but you're at 0 left at Amazon now. So like you sold out. You could have sold those 50 pieces at the same price and been sold out faster. And what would that have accomplished? So if you raise the price by $2 or $3, you just literally made $150 that you would not have made if the software wasn't playing defense for you and increasing the price. And like those are the, you have I'm sure you guys deal with it all day. There's people that are, a little bit of pains in the butt and are sort of aggressive and are trying to find holes in what you do.
Right.
And they're like, but this is bad, and they go after you. Like when you show people that, it is indisputable that by increasing your price, you really just made yourself additional revenue that if you didn't do, you just are leaving money on the table. And that's like the biggest 1+1, where the biggest pains are going to look at that and go like, okay, you got me. Like, that's it. It's I got nothing. Like, and that's really, and it happens, especially now, it happens like crazy.
And I have a feeling that a lot of those like mid-tier priced guys that are selling in the same category that maybe have less sales velocity than the super cheap priced one, but their profit's probably higher at the end of the day. They can probably sell less units at a higher price and make more money than some of the other ones who are selling and making crazy sales on that. So why not be that guy?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely different philosophies on how to run your business. Some people, and it's funny, when we pitch the software and we do our Facebook advertising and Google advertising, we're always marketing to the CEOs of the companies, because when we get an employees are usually don't like change. So they'll see change and they get very hesitant. But when it's a CEO or the owner of a company that actually cares about bottom line dollars, they will usually push the envelope and then say, this, I don't care how hard this is for you, I know you have to change, but like this needs to happen because I'm in business to actually make money, not to just hit sales dollars. So that that mindset which you described of I'd rather maybe sell a little bit less and make more money is very much an owner CEO type of mindset. And there are those out there who are just sales driven because they have another business that they're making money from. But most of us who are Amazon sellers need this business to actually be profitable. And at the end of the day, just like we have a financial tool. Like when you turn on the tool, people are shocked that after all the Amazon expenses, like, what do you mean my margin's 8 points? I'm like, it's like, it's not my fault. That's what it is. Like, that's why you called. And but like that, once you get your you have to increase your prices to try and increase that margin. And that's really, but you do it in an automated fashion, at least you can do it in a way that's not just go across your whole catalog, raise everything by $2 and see what happens.
Something that's been more and more out there is those little coupons on the listing, those little neon green coupons. It's like save 5%, save $2. Does that have anything to do with the algorithm? Would that mess up the algorithm if I had those on the listing at all?
Absolutely not. No,
Okay.
so that's like most those coupons are usually either done by a dollar amount or by a percentage off. So as those coupons are running, if they're actually converting at a 5% off or a 10% off, whatever it is, the software can raise your base retail and the coupon will stay the same. So the
Okay.
coupon isn't
Mm.
affected by that.
Cool.
So it actually works. It really works very nicely when you do things like that.
So
And if I run a lightning deal at the same time, like any of that?
Lightning deals, you can't mess with Amazon and lightning deals. Lightning deals, you got to turn off the repricer. They won't let you move prices around on a lightning deal.
Okay.
oh, that's a
So,
good point.
yeah. So that lightning deal, turn off the repricer, let it do its thing, let that run. And then after it's over, then you want to basically let the repricer start playing around once you have this new, hopefully this new velocity that, you can see if you can still achieve that velocity and then sneak your pricing up because you now have finished this lightning deal at 20 off or whatever they make you, whatever you decided to do. Now it's back at regular pricing. You should be hopefully closer to page one, so to say. And now you can hopefully support a higher retail price.
Well, that's exactly what I was just thinking, because every time I run a lightning deal, you get that sales spike for many days following, typically because you're, like you mentioned, your organic rank has improved. That's the perfect time to be testing out, especially since you just dropped money on the lightning deal.
That's the whole point. Yeah.
You could recoup that and get a win-win. Interesting. Okay. Everyone who's listening has got to be exactly like I am right now and very intrigued and sold on this idea. So what do they do? If anybody's looking to use this tool right now, tell them how they get started.
It's azsellerkit.com/register.
Okay.
You can go to the site and register your account. We have a 14-day free trial. We don't start the trial until you actually have an onboarding meeting with us. So you don't have to stress about if I logged in today and I registered my account and, I didn't get in touch for a week that now my trial is over. We're going to start charging you. We don't take a credit card. We try and treat other sellers like we wanted to be treated when we were buying software. So we probably went through 80 softwares over the course of the last 20 years. And you have just this feeling of if I log in and I set up my account and I'm going to miss the free trial because I actually got busy. So it's not about that. You register your account, you sign up whenever you're ready and you have that first onboarding meeting, that's when we'll basically start the trial once the repricer has, started for you. And if there are people that are hesitant and don't necessarily feel like, giving, doing an account sync because they want to see the software first, we do demos also. We have basically a private version where it has all the SKU information actually hidden, and we'll still actually do a full demo on real live data so that you can actually get a feel for what the software does, how it works, and what it's going to look like. Eventually, if you do want to sync your account with the tool.
This is going to be huge, like especially for people that have that exit in mind, like they want to exit their business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you start this now and you exit in 18 months, you're probably just adding more and more profit to your multiple.
Yeah, they're buying, all these guys are buying one thing. They're buying your profit over the next 3 it started, or 3.5 or 4 or 17 years. I think they might be up to now because they're that competitive, but it's, they're buying profits, not sales. So you want to have that.
Such a good point, because we talked to different aggregators and that's exactly right. That is the perfect win for a seller to be doing right now. Well, everybody who's listening, go check them out. Go to AZ Seller Kit right now to get started. Get that 14-day free trial. You got absolutely nothing to lose. I'm super intrigued. I know Chris is intrigued. We got to have you back on in the future sometime, because there's gonna be all kinds of new cool things.
Something's gonna change, right?
Yeah. So we'd love to just keep everyone updated on what's going on with you guys.
And now I love this stuff. I could talk to you guys for the next 12 hours. Like, this stuff makes me happy.
Yeah, we love it too. But anyway, thanks so much for joining us. I learned a ton. I know it's been very valuable for everybody else. So everyone go to azsellerkit.com/register, get signed up for the free trial. Also, for everyone listening, if you like great content like this, if you love to hear about cool new tools and what's going on in the Amazon space, make sure you're subscribing to the podcast. You can also subscribe, like, our Facebook page, Solozo's Facebook page, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're live streaming these every day to those, so you can turn on notifications and get notified when we go live with really cool people like Jason talking about really cool topics like automated pricing. And speaking of automation, if you are struggling with your PPC and you'd like to have that automated in a similar fashion, easy setup, going towards target A costs, really take that workload off of your plate, then you can go to Solozo.com. You can book a demo. You'll get either Chris or me. Like I always say, if you're lucky, you'll get me for the demo, and we'll walk through the whole platform. We'll give you a 14-day free trial as well. So you could be off and running with 2 softwares today, right now. So anyway, hope everyone's having a great day today. And thanks, Jason, for joining us. And we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.